Welcome to The Bucket List Show, the show with a focus on community, travel, housing, and local experiences here on the Treasure Coast and beyond, so you can fill your bucket to live your most abundant life. And now here's Tammy Crandell and Rebecca Denise.
Hello, welcome to the Bucket List Show. My name is Tammy Crandell, and I'm with Journ Adventure Travel and Tours, as well as Barron Real Estate. And we are here once again with the Bucket List Show. The intention is to serve you so we can help you fill your bucket to live your most abundant life. And what does that mean for each of you here and us today? Well, that means we have great information from a friend of ours, Jonathan Castellane with Liberty Title Company of America. Welcome.
Tammy, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Pleasure to be here on Planet Vero.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you. So glad to have you. Thank you so much. I know that we really try to make this a fun show to talk about some things that are on a person's bucket list. One of those being home ownership, but you got to get to that point, right?
Right.
There's some steps we got to take.
Yep.
And that's where Liberty Title Company of America comes in.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jonathan, and how did you get into doing this type of business?
Well, again, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. So I'm a financial services executive. I've been in financial services for 20 years. I started on the West Coast in sales and trading at an investment bank. And then at the ripe old age of 26, I drove my car to New York City. One man, one dream, sort of one ambition. And I got into the investment banking business in New York City. So
wow, that's pretty assertive.
Yeah, no, it was, sort of, you're only silly enough or young enough to do that. I think the more experienced sort of logical person would say you're out of your mind. You don't know anybody. You're going into the big punching bag, and good luck to you. But yeah, no, it was something that was always on my mind. My uncle had lived in New York City. He worked for Lehman Brothers, and so chip off the old block. If he can do it, I can do it. So
there you go.
Yeah, I lived in the city for 15 years. I worked basically researching companies. So in essence, I would write valuations, present them to their management teams, present them to the investment bankers.
Oh, very good.
Also represent investors. And the interesting part was I actually covered the public title industry. So I was valuing companies like Fidelity National, Stewart Title. So I knew these business models quite well. And
that's fantastic.
After my time in New York City, it's sort of like no garages, you got to get on the subway, all these things, which, become tiresome after a while.
Sure.
I moved up to Connecticut, spent 3 years there. I actually worked for a hedge fund in putting money into my own ideas. Again, the title industry and different fintech companies, asset management, investment banks. I decided that I actually wanted to be an operator, actually into the management of a small business. So I searched around, I searched the country. I looked at a tax business in Colorado. I found these 2 title companies down here in the Treasure Coast. And did about 6 months of diligence, and using my expertise in financial services, again, for a couple of decades, I decided to buy Liberty Title about a year and a half ago.
Oh, so, fantastic. So it's a new venture for you.
New venture, yeah, but it's sort of an old domicile, meaning that, it's sort of blocking and tackling financial services. Where basically, it's a third insurance company, a third a bank, and a third a law firm, if you kind of deconstruct it, put it back together.
Yes.
So yeah, all things that I know and love. As a fiduciary, we used to manage $300 or $400 million. So, managing an escrow account for third-party clients is second nature. It comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of, sort of compliance and standards and regiment, which is what we know and love. It's protecting someone's money is vitally important, especially in this day and age where so much fraud and things to be concerned about. So that part is, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be a part of an organization that protects people's money. And home ownership, as you discussed, it's the biggest, most important investment of someone's life.
It is, whether they're investing in a passive income property or they're buying their home for the first time or even selling a home for the first time. So how does that translate to the consumer? How do you help these people?
Well, first of all, we clear title. So again, it's the biggest purchase of someone's life. It's likely their nest egg, their savings, their life savings, their family's money. So we help a person convey title properly. So as a title insurer, we're looking for any defects in the actual title or the named the legal status of the home.
Okay.
If title wasn't checked and you convey or sell a property or buy a property and title has a defect, you actually, unfortunately, would have a claim against that property and you wouldn't wholly own it outright. So we perform a very important service to the end buyer and the seller. So in essence, it's a legal, realm that is highly valued, highly important. We deal with Old Republic National Title. It's a private company in Minnesota.
Oh, very
It's
familiar.
a AAA rated company. Yeah, exactly. So all these things are very important. So, it's nice to touch the end consumer, to help people, satisfy their dreams, monetize their nest egg, move here, move there, buy a second home, third home. So yeah, we like where we sit in the world. Again, financial services, it's a business of fidelity. It's a business of trust. It's a business of execution. So the nice thing about Liberty is we've been around for 17 years in Port St. Lucie.
Oh, good. Good.
And we employ all local people that know St. Lucie, that have grown with the town, that have families in the town.
So they're familiar with their bankers and mortgage lenders and all of those.
Exactly.
That
Yeah. It's very important to have, sort of a good bona fide title team. And the great thing about it is real estate is still a very local business. You have to know the network on the ground.
Agreed.
Our title personnel are greatly intertwined with the local realtors. And then the lenders, they sort of come and go. They change names.
Sure.
And to be honest,
I experienced in my own career the last 15 years of my banking career. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, the banking industry a little more volatile, but that's vitally important too, because you do not want to deal with a bank as a single consumer.
No.
You want that fidelity. You want that title company interposed between the transaction to help you explain what these mean, what this Patriot Act means.
Well, and that whole conveyance of title that you had talked about before, when we saw banks for a while gobbling each other up and gobbling each other up, were things actually transferred the way they needed to be transferred? So what would you say are some of the most common defects that you
it can range. Fraud and forgery is quite the frequency is quite high.
How so?
Well, you could have someone that forged a deed, two ownerships, ago. So our title insurance, our underwriter insures against that possibility that someone has, misexecuted a deed. Forgery is a big one these days in a world of electronic signatures and things that can be, managed electronically. You need a title insurer there. Other items, again, misexecuted documents, things that weren't conveyed properly to begin with.
Of course.
Could be a missed owner's affidavit or a title vesting document wasn't completed properly. So, a lot of things. I'd say fraud and forgery are the main things. Marital status can get into weird places. So
it gets sticky.
Someone is hiding a husband or a wife. They didn't sign the deed and they didn't tell you that they were still married. So you could have a claim coming in from the unfortunate.
That just amazes me. Like, how do you hide a wife or a husband?
Well, you'd be surprised.
I'm really interested in this,
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good business. Like maybe there's something there to do. But no, people, look, as you know, life machinations can change quite a bit. People want to get married, don't want to get married. But, people execute documents without their spouse. And in Florida, a homestead state, that's, it's a real problem.
It is huge.
Estranged people that decide that, that as I mentioned, it's the same scenario. I'm estranged from my wife, and therefore I'm executing this deed. I'm going to lie about my marital status, which is a form of fraud and forgery.
Of course.
And then the deed's been misexecuted. So
yeah, there are a lot of couples out there that, for whatever reason, whether it's for insurance or tax reasons, that they're still technically married, even though they're officially separated. So that could really create a huge nightmare for closing.
The number one reason for claims in title insurance is marital status. It sounds a little obvious, but it honestly is a big item. And then, Florida, God bless the state. It's a place where people come to hide. You get foreign money in. That there's a lot of shell corporations that may or may not, be properly financed, that properly own, these pieces of real estate. So, the title company insures that. When we get a real estate contract, the realtors say, "Oh, done, wash my hands, see it closing." But the reality is, from that point on, we're clearing conditions. We're out there, validating LLCs or corporations. looking back at 30 years of title. So we're back there, looking at what's happened in the chain, making sure that this hard-earned money that's coming from the buyer to the seller is taking this piece of real property and moving it, appropriately to the new buyer. So there's a lot to it. Title companies, we're sort of that stepchild that, people, they don't really understand the process, and therefore they sort of, we get into weird spots where we're blamed for everything, and I think our services are underappreciated, but it's vitally important.
Well, you provide a real value to keep, you're really protecting, as you mentioned earlier,
right,
the largest asset that most people will own in their lifetime.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't you make sure that you have an owner's policy or a buyer's policy?
Yeah.
On both ends. Is it best for you to be able to manage both sides of the contract?
Well, so we would get so we don't manage both sides. The realtor, whoever's paying for title directs the business into the title company. So that one side alone gives you, the allocation as the title agency, so to speak. So, but yeah, I mean, both sides, it's really regardless. I mean, the real estate agent can manage both sides.
Okay.
They're
right, of
buyer
course.
and seller, but the title company, one side, whoever's paying for title contracts with the title company.
Okay, fantastic. Now, of course, we have a lot of information to talk about.
Yeah.
I know we're talking a lot about title services, but we're also going to visit some bucket list items today at some point.
You're going to put me on the spot? I'm not sure I thought about my bucket list.
Well, I mean, I think everybody should think about their bucket list. It's part of life planning, right?
It is.
So we're going to take a quick break and for about 2 minutes, but we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to uncover some of Jonathan's bucket list items. And when we return.
Dr. Stephen Tate offers the safest and most efficient technique for customized cataract surgery. Patients are personally counseled on the best approach for their needs and lifestyle. From multifocal lenses that allow for distance and reading vision to toric lenses that correct astigmatism, let New Vision Eye Center guide you safely through your options. For world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast, visit newvisioneyecenter.com.
If you operate a small business, you need services like payroll, tax compliance, HR tools, and other resources. You need Complete Employee Solutions. Vero Beach has a team of professionals, including Anthony Sammons, Matt McCain, and Jennifer Comer, who saw the need for competent payroll, HR, and employee leasing services. Call Complete Employee Solutions at 772-978-7277 or visit their website at CompleteEmployeeSolutions.com.
Is owning a home your goal? With the rising cost of rent, you could be saving a lot of money by owning your own home. At Caliber Home Loans, we can help make homeownership a reality. Meet with us for a free consultation and get on the right path to buy the home of your dreams. For Caliber, home loans is all we do. We use local appraisers and offer a variety of loan options to fit your lifestyle and budget. Call us today, 844-GO-CALIBER, license number CHL15622, Caliber Home Loans, TreasureCoast.com.
It's time to call Easy Brew Coffee and Bottled Water Service and learn just how much you can save and how convenient it is to have your coffee and bottled water delivered right to your home or office. In addition to water coolers, Easy Brew offers individual bottles of water in 8 or 16-ounce bottles. No more lugging it home or dragging it into the office. Serving the Treasure Coast for over 2 decades, 2 letters, 1 simple name. Easy for Easy Brew. Visit e-zbrew.com or call 800-792-3285. Easy Brew.
Hello and welcome back to the Bucket List Show. Thank you for joining us as we turn our conversation for our bucket list listeners and watchers to some of the things that might be on our guest list. That's Jonathan Castellane. I know I put you in the hot seat.
You did.
Because sometimes you're not sure, what it is that you want to do. So what are your thoughts going into 2023? What are some things that you desire to do?
Yeah, so as an owner of 2 title agencies, I mean, honestly, I think the customer experience is vitally important to me. I know it sounds quite corporate, but it's not an uncompetitive business. So I think about from contact to closing how we can be a better title company, which means
Good.
better experience, more efficiency, more happy grams,
Mm-hmm.
more people that are excited to come to closing. So I think there's a lot of technology that can be infused in our business and real estate and title. So for example, I signed a new car lease recently, and I went into the dealership, and the desk of the salesperson was an entire flat screen. You just sign there. So do I think I would like
Yeah, it's
our
pretty
clients,
sexy, right?
Yeah, well, so it just seemed, I don't know if you've bought a house recently, but you get a huge packet of documents.
Mhm.
So, and I know documents these days, it's in a digital world, analog, meaning paper and all this stuff. I think it's pretty cumbersome.
It
And
is.
I'm fairly OCD, so I don't like stuff flying around. I'd rather have it stored electronically. So I'm constantly thinking about how to digitize, the experience in title and beyond. It can be in real estate brokerage. So, bucket list would be to continue to grow, share,
Absolutely.
make people happier. I mean, you have to be sort of selfless
Mhm.
in the customer facing business. And so it's really, I think, just improving the experience, making
course.
people want to come to the Treasure Coast, making people want to use Liberty Title. And, and as a manager, culture in business, I think, beats strategy any day of the week, right?
Mhm.
So, I've seen it, in my time in New York, in 20 years of looking at all these, Harvard Business School case studies and like all these fabulously run companies and all that. And I think that the main attribute, which is most important for these companies, is culture.
Absolutely.
Strategy is one thing. Like I've got a good economic model, but I don't think that keeps people in different companies.
Well, and translating your strategy to that
Right.
service environment
Right.
is important. So
Yeah.
taking the time to make sure that you have some focus time
Yeah.
is important.
And that's what I tell my team. I said, we do life here, and when you have, we have 10 employees, but honestly, then I feel like I have 10 families, because it's important because people are so busy. But if you look over here, someone's got 5 children here, or 3 children here, or 2 children there, and so you have to understand that the clock may start at 8:30, but people's minds are elsewhere. So I always say it. You have to give people room for their personalities and for their work styles. And that's the thing. Like, I think if you sat down and said, we have to do it this way, that you wouldn't last very long, because to be frank, we have really great expertise. We got people that have been doing title for, 15 years, and they know a little better way. And you can't just plug them into your purview of something because, it's regimented or it's slightly, I just think that, yeah, you sort of have to give people room to be innovative, to be progressive. And then again, I say, we do life and culture, and I want to make people that work in our company, I want to make them proud for them to work there, that it's their last job in title, because I've done a good job, creating a system which is productive and energetic and progressive and, positive. I mean,
Of course.
it's things can go different ways, and, you want to make sure that you're putting in the right incentives, creating the right environment, making people happy, whether it's, again, I don't think if your employees are happy, you can see them smiling through the phone, they put the extra effort in.
Well, and that's different for everybody. And that's a really big part of, with my travel company at Journa Venture. That's one of the things that I've touted, my banking history in the past.
Right.
Not everyone fits into the same box.
Yeah.
We're really big. Our hashtag is no boxes.
Right.
And that's because we don't want those boundaries or those
Right.
barriers. It helps to understand the plan. It helps to understand the end game. But not everybody has to get there in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
And, and knowing your people, understanding your people, so important, because what drives one person is not going to drive the person that sits next to them.
That's exactly it. So that's why, you sort of have to do, to spend a lot of time, understand what makes people tick. You have to understand who people are before you can take them where you want them to go. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I mean, just today I had someone in my office, and I said, how are you doing? And I asked about mental health, because I think people, like, the pandemic has changed everything.
It has.
Like, you've started the great resignation where people are like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
That's right.
So they gravitate to things which feel good and are easier. So I'm thinking to myself, well, you got to make people feel good and make things easier. So, it's no different. And I mean, I just think that all these softer attributes are really important now. And as a manager,
it's helpful to make them, to put in some incentives. Sometimes it's the tools they're working with.
right.
Having the right tools to make their job easier every day. Something that is just going to make their job more pleasant from day to day.
Yeah, it's everything, to be honest. I want people to get paid better, to have better quality of life, to participate, to feel like they're part of something, like all these things.
And I think it's what we all want. The reality is if we really sat down and say, well, I don't want to work. That's not true. I don't want to sit on my couch.
Right.
So I might do better if I'm in an environment, most of the time because of what I do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm working. It doesn't feel like work to me. And it's hard work. What I do with the travel company, what I do with Barron, this stuff is not easy. So, so we want to narrow that down. But just to throw in some fun travel-y things, some ideas to think about. And this is what I would encourage of the small businesses that I worked with in the past. Think about what it is that will incentivize yourself, incentivize your team.
Right.
Whether that means you pull a couple of days to get away together.
Yep.
Or you reward somebody with a couple of days away somewhere. It could be local, could be on a cruise, could be somewhere else. Those incentives surprisingly make a difference. And what makes them make a difference is it has an everlasting impression.
Right.
So for most people, I'm not saying we don't like money. We all like money, right?
Right.
Okay. If we're honest, we like money.
Yeah.
But that money, it burns fast.
Right.
So having something that's got some longevity is good. So whether you want to take a cruise or you want to, take a rail tour, go spend some time on an island or just, sit by a hotel that has a great beachfront, or if it's just time with your family. I used to award time to my teams for good work, and they loved that. They were competing with each other constantly for time. Which was awesome. It was like the smartest thing a person could do,
right. And it's their own currency, right? They can spend it as they want.
And that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all of that. I encourage people to take time to, to de-stress, to, be creative. And, family is the most important, facet of life. So I encourage people, get out there, take your time, do what you need to do.
Okay. Well, and before we wrap up today, I just want to reiterate, because we are running low on time. We can't be here all afternoon, right? We got a couple of minutes. So is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you would like to bring up before we close the show today?
Geez, open mic question for me. No, I just think that, look, the business side, title insurance is important. You don't have to get it, but it's a vitally important asset to the home buyer. I think like anything else, I'll finish with a softer message. Like, do business with people who you like doing business with and who have virtues and, have good customer service and have standards and work really hard. Because, I know people, they kind of get stuck in their ways. They do things because they've always done it that way. Mm-hmm. But I think the good companies, you can tell who cares about the business, who's putting in new systems, who's thinking about the customer experience.
They're more progressive, yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to, as I say, do the next thing, which is... So
how do our listeners and watchers find you?
I'm everywhere.
You're
I'm
everywhere.
On LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you'd like to work for the best culture, I believe, and I'm biased, in the Treasure Coast, I'm Jonathan Castlane. I'm on LinkedIn. Liberty Title Company is on Port St. Lucie Boulevard, 1800 Port St. Lucie Boulevard. And obviously, as you know, we also have our affiliate office at 8555 Commerce Center Drive at the Barron Homes office. And I'm on Facebook. I do that type of thing. Oh. And my email is jonathan@libertytitleinc.com. Okay. So happy to answer any question, whether it's title insurance or otherwise. But as I say, customer service to me doesn't stop. My phone's always on. I try to just, help as many people out. Can be in a business facet, personal facet, whatever it is.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us today. Let's not forget, listeners, watchers, we have some of the greatest places that you can visit here up and down the Treasure Coast. whether you want to go paddleboarding for the first time ever, or you just want a weekend stay somewhere, I can help you with that. If you're looking to buy a home, looking to get those things wrapped up, not only come to see me at Barron Real Estate at 772-579-9536. That's Tammy Crandall. Or you can also reach out to Jonathan, our wonderful guest. Thank you so much for joining me today and giving us some insight as to how important it is to have title.
Thanks for everything, Tammy. Appreciate it.